when it turned to last night's primaries, where this show began. Victories by candidates endorsed by, as I mentioned, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani. CBS News political director Fin Gomez, right here to my left at the family table. Fin?
Major.
What made an impression upon you, good sir?
Well, what made an impression, like, this was a huge night, no question, for Mayor Mamdani. And it's, this progressive movement that he really started with his outsider win last year, right? He is now the de facto leader of the DSA wing of the party, with these wins last night.
The Democratic Socialists of America.
Yes, Democratic Socialists of America. A couple things to remember. One, these are very safe blue districts, right? It doesn't change the chess map for the balance of power come November. Probably the most.
As I said, liberal districts in a liberal city became more liberal.
Yes, exactly. And now when you pivot now to the general election, it's a different electorate. You're not playing to your base, and in races outside of places like New York, like in these battleground frontline districts, how much will this message sell, and how much will it be a deterrent to those who are up for grabs?
All right, there's that, and then there's something that you and I know.
Yes,
Fin Gomez, because in an earlier era of our life covering American politics, we covered the Tea Party.
Yes,
which was a grassroots, more aggressively conservative part of the Republican Party. And it didn't win everything initially, but it had clearly created influential aspects of the conversation. And that sort of came to full fruition with Trump in 2025 and 2016. Yes. So early victories, grassroots activism, and energy can sometimes become something else.
Oh, absolutely.
Is this the Tea Party on the left? From your vantage point.
Yeah, absolutely. It is the progressive Tea Party. You and I have been talking about this really since around the Mamdani win, of course. But yes, look, this is something, and we're seeing it not just in New York, but we have seen it in Maine. We have seen it in places like California, like you talked about,
Seattle,
where it could potentially grow into something else, right? At the very least, it's likely to tilt the 2028 platform more to the left, like we saw Bernie Sanders in previous cycles. I think that's important. But there are some cautionary tales here. Sure. As you and I both know about the 2010 cycle, my first midterm cycle that I covered, and in doing that, in covering the Tea Party movement, what you also saw is they had a huge wins in the House, like about 63 wins, huge. On the Senate side, they lost some pretty close races.
They lost winnable races because they nominated people who could not win a general election.
Exactly. And I think that's the cautionary tale here, that this could potentially be the same thing once you pivot to the general election.
But in politics, energy matters. And energy, at least in New York, was evident last night. Fin Gomez, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to bring in CBS News Executive Director of Elections and Surveys. He's your friend. He's my friend. His name is Anthony Salvanto. Anthony, tell us what happened in New York last night.
Major, everything you're talking about there is that in the modern media age, things that happen locally quickly become national. And I'm going to show you a map, and I'm going to tell you a story, because it's going to relate back to those points about socialism that you mentioned earlier. Let me show you this. This is the New York 13th. Now, this is going to be a slam dunk win for the Democrats. It's not a competitive district come November. But where Chevalier wins here and knocks off incumbent SBI, if I go through this and I look at the areas in the district, I see places here in yellow where she did better are a little bit younger, a little bit more affluent once you control for the Latino population in these precincts up here. What I mean by generational change is you saw a lot of incumbents lose, and oftentimes you see younger voters who are looking to push out some of that old party leadership that you described at the top. So that's number one. But the other one comes back to what you said at the top about socialism, too. If you look at the polling, you will see not just among Democrats, but often among younger people with a more positive view of socialism more broadly. And I just want to unpack really quickly, that doesn't always mean all the same thing to all of them. For some of them, it's about government control over parts of the economy. For others, it's just about redistribution or taxes. There's a whole lot of issues in there, all of which is to say, a party that's out of power is going to fight over their policy and fight over their direction. And that's the larger context going on here.
And Anthony, before I let you go, this idea of young voters being involved in these races, first of all, as registered voters, participating voters in primaries, and a significant fulcrum in the outcome, that's important because once young voters get in, they tend to stay. And if they become a recognizable part of a party's power swing, it really matters.
They tend to stay. And if we're talking about fights within the Democratic Party, the Democratic Party needs them. It has relied on younger voters. The fact, though, is their view of this economy is obviously proving to be very different structurally than the previous generation's view of it. Part of that has to do with opportunity. So the party is trying to fight for those voters and make a case to them. That is what you are seeing playing out here.
Anthony Salvanto, always a pleasure, sir. Thank you.